Sal, dude, great to see you. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Very excited to talk to you. Obviously, we've known each other for a little while. We stayed in touch. We first met through our friend Matt, I suppose, out in LA.
Matt.
Yeah, the man. Whilst you're at Fearless, and yeah, dude, I've been kind of keeping up with you ever since, and following what you're up to, and it's always super exciting. So yeah, thank you. Thanks for helping us out, man.
Dude, great to talk to you. Awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. So I think like the first primary question, how did you get your start, man? How did you enter the music industry, this crazy world of the music industry?
Yeah. I think first I want to just say there's no path. It's like so unique, right? So this, or the series of events for myself, it's over the years, it's like not any one person has ever taken that same route as far as my perspective to other people or your peers and whatnot, so it's quite interesting, to understand that. But yeah, so for me, I grew up in San Diego, California, and fortunately at that time we had a thriving, amazing band scene. So many amazing bands, like at that point it was like pop punk and indie rock. And then, I think before it really sort of bubbled out into the world, metalcore was a big thing, but it was mainly as far as for Southern California, it was like in churches, like youth group Christian churches. So we would always go to shows, and it's like, sure, we believe in Jesus, like let's mosh,
Yeah.
So it would just be like all the friends out there, and that's the same theme that like As Lay Dying came from and all that good stuff. So it was very cool to be a part of that and in and around that. But I was just a friend. I was just a homie that hung out with like at shows, and then some friends started a band, and I would just be the friend that hung out at the practices, smoking weed and just doing whatever. And then a good friend of mine, Joe, he was a drummer, and he he joined a band called Undermined in San Diego. And the circumstance of that was he had an issue with his driver's license. So I think at the time I was just turned 18, or I might have been 17. So I had to drive with him to his practice every day. And then that band got signed, I believe, to Kung Fu Records, and they got offered Warped Tour. This was 2004. And so they got offered Warped Tour and whatnot, and then they asked if I wanted to come along and to do merch. But this is like back in the day. So this was 2004, and the stipulation with them to be on the tour was they had to do it in a van and trailer, but then they also had to build the Smart Punk stage. So they were on the Smart Punk stage that year, and they had to build it every day, and then we had to do merch and do all that stuff. So, like I said, everyone has a different path, and I've always sort of worked hard, or at that point I remember saving like I think like $500, and I gave it to them for like gas and whatnot. I don't know why, but like maybe I was too humble, so I wasn't expecting to get paid, or I knew that I had to like cut it out there.
Right.
So yeah, I mean that's really kind of how I got started into everything. Everything from that really it was the persistence, of just like being involved and wanting to work out there. But yeah, so it's funny that year we went out there, and there was on that stage, it was like Under Oath, 18 Visions, Emery, Theosin, all these bands that no one really knew about at that point, or at least the production staff. So I do remember through that scenario, the logistics weren't really tied down, because I don't think anyone really gave a shit about that stage.
Right.
So there wasn't any truck space purchased for that. So we literally had to be the first ones there to unload it and be the last ones there to load it into whatever truck space. I'm just breaking down the realities of,
Yeah.
of what it means to go out there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then having to sleep sitting up for 12 hours to the next human place.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this, man, Warped Tour is and was an amazing, crazy thing. Honestly, it really taught me how to be a man out there and just really like working hard and being like a reliable person, because there's not a lot of room for error. And if there is any error, it really swallows you up.
Yeah.
So, definitely learned a lot. But is it very interesting that year? I actually went home early because I wasn't getting along with the friend that I was out there helping out. And, I went home early and I was like, oh, maybe that wasn't for me or whatnot, but it really was. I mean, past that point, I think I did Warped Tour all in all, maybe like 9 years in total.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a long time. I think it's almost about half the amount that's been around.
Right.
But yeah, so it just kind of, when you're out there, you're meeting people, you're growing relationships and stuff. So after I went home, went back to San Diego, and was always still involved in the music scene some way or another in San Diego. And then I met a good friend of mine named Dave Shapiro, who's now a booking agent for a lot of bands over the years. He's worked at a couple different places and now has his own company, which is awesome. But so he had just moved to San Diego as the in-house booking agent for Equal Vision Records. And so we became friends. And then he had a straight edge clothing company called Until Industries that my best friend Robert and I used to work with him on once in a while. He had a kiosk at the mall here in San Diego, and we would sell stuff for him. But since I had done Warped, he asked if I could go out there and cover the merch person position for 2 weeks out on Warped Tour, which was Eric Tobin, who I now work with.
Right.
And so I was filling in for him for a couple weeks, and that was cool. I was on a bus for the first time on Warped Tour, and it was just a great time. So my 2 weeks there were done, and then I had met a band out there that was on Fearless Records called Yesterday's Rising. And when I got home, they asked if I would be able to tour manage them. So they were on a bus at the time. So the second half of the tour, they were in a van, and I drove a van from northern San Diego all the way out to Detroit to go meet up with them, which is like crazy. I was like,
that's
this is wild.
Yeah.
So then, like I said, you just kind of network from there. And, during this whole point, besides the Warped Tour for Dave Shapiro covering the merch, over these years, I'm not getting paid. You really, really isn't. Maybe $100 at the end of tour, but it wasn't expected or anything like that. It was just, I guess I'm going on the details, but like the one thing is the sentiment around that was, for me, it was just tunnel vision. I knew music was in the direction that I was walking, but I was in the dark with my eyes closed, and I just didn't know what it was, but I knew where I was going. I was very naive. I didn't know what positions there really were. I knew that I could work hard, so I did.
Yeah.
So after the end of 2005 Warped Tour with Yesterday's Rising, we did some fall touring, and I had we did a tour with the guys in Chiodo.
Yeah.
And got on really well with them, which is lifelong friends. And they hired me for 2006. And that was, really cool. Craig was the first person to ever believe in me enough to pay me, which was always thanking for that. And I think, it was like straight into touring. I think we went all around the world during that year. And I got to do some really cool things. I was, at that point now, I was like a tour manager, which is 2006. And I got to do some really cool things to tour manage the first ever The Sound of Animals Fighting shows tour here in Southern California and Nevada.
Yeah.
And that was really cool because, I was buying their merch like the year prior
Yeah,
online and
amazing.
whatnot. I loved it. So it was a really, I mean, I was very young and naive, so it was a very surreal experience. But uh, I just remember, um, like I said, I want to focus in on some of the realities. Like the realities of that is I'm driving around with Anthony Green and our projector in my mom's Astro van around Southern California. It's like a maroon Astro van. Everyone has their other vehicles and whatnot, but
Yeah.
it's plenty times, man. Plenty times for sure. But yeah, so I stayed with touring for a long time. Tour managing, like I said, all that networking over the years. I got a chance to work with Scary Kids Scaring Kids, the Take Action Tour, A Static Lullaby, Pierce the Veil, A Day to Remember, Breathe Carolina, stuff like that, which was
Yeah.
all really cool to be around and to see, all those successes kind of go on, which is really cool to be right there in the thick of it with them. So, that was a pretty good run. So I did touring all the way up until about 2012. And, at that point, after Breathe Carolina, which was the last one we did, really big campaign for their song Blackout, which went platinum, which is awesome.
Yep.
And a lot of hard work from that team. But I was honestly, I was over touring. I wanted more. At the end of the day, I think I just wanted to be more involved. It's like I had done my best to really be efficient as a tour manager and really think about convenience out there. So at that point, it's like, hey, how's tour going? Great. There's really nothing more to talk about,
Right.
after that point. So I just wanted to have more of the conversation. So luckily I worked really closely on that last run with Breathe Carolina with Fearless Records. And so they gave me an opportunity in 2012 to be a new A&R on their team. And that really blew my world open as to what I really cared about. Going into that position, I was super green as well, super naive. I didn't really know what to expect. And with all those bands that I toured with, I had never once met an A&R with any of them. So I didn't know what that role was. I didn't really know, what it meant. So I was just kind of learning at Fearless, but it was really cool. I think the one thing that really helped me during that time is having a lot of a lot of trusted relationships that
Definitely.
I earned from touring over the years, whether it's from band members to promoters to security guards to just people that general workers, employees from venues and whatnot. It really helped me just have access to people that would send me bands or just have that understanding of what actually takes place past putting a record out. So that was really cool, and was at Fearless for a couple years.
I mean, there's so many questions in my head already about what you've mentioned. For me,
Chime in. I'll just go on.
Yeah, of course.
I'll go on.
It's all important, man. It's all super important. The one for me, is always with regards to those that have experienced touring compared to office work, say, or the more hands-on and actually really being involved with the band rather than just on the road kind of thing. That comparison to me is fascinating. So I think hearing that you've kind of made the decision to move on from touring rather than it just kind of happened for you is super interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, it took so there's different levels of commitment, right? There's different levels of sacrifice during all of that. There's probably people that are more fearless than I am, but at least for me, it was huge moments of decision to go out into the world with nothing. You always want this idea of how things go, but yeah, it was just like I said, tunnel vision
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
of just going in that direction. So,
For sure.
um,
Well, yeah. So that actually it leads on perfectly actually to where I wanted to head with this. So obviously, like I mentioned in the beginning, we know each other via the medium of you being A&R. You've worked for the large indies, the big dogs over in the States. So obviously Fearless, where we met. Then you moved on to
mhm.
Sharptone, and now you're a new venture with Hopeless, which is super exciting. Um, so yeah, my thoughts are that when I first met you, when you know when Matt introduced us and we'd taken time to kind of like get to know each other a little bit, it was very clear to me that you do have a natural talent for kind of spotting talent. You know, you've got a good ear. You've got a good ear, and that is obviously that's the job of an A&R. You know, is to have a good ear and to recognize this sort of untapped potential. So from this transition into A&R, from tour management, touring, just in general, and doing bits and bobs. Was it an easy transition? Was it something that you enjoyed straight away?
Yeah, it was fairly easy. I mean, listen, I got to sleep in my own bed and take showers every day, which was so awesome. That's the root of it. No, it was pretty easy. You know, like I said, I just wanted more. My goal with music has always just been change. I wanted to be involved and make things better. Um, so yeah, it was pretty easy. But like I said, I'm trying to remember back to those early. This is 2012, almost 8 years ago when I started at Fearless. Um, so yeah, I mean, well, it was easy in a sense of like it was better than touring, but the reality is I was still living in San Diego, so I had to drive about 90 miles each way to work every day. But I eventually moved up there, but that's just how it was at the time.
Right.
But it wasn't too bad. Our offices were across the street from the beach and on the back of a marina, so it was really nice.
It could be worse.
It could be worse. It could be worse. No,
uh,
but that was cool, and going back to what you were talking about, identifying bands and stuff. I'm sure people want to know like what my thought process for finding bands and whatnot. It's first off, it's like you got to have awesome music that makes me react or gets me excited. But for the most part, it's a time and a place. At least initially when you're like listening to new songs without speaking to anybody or whatnot. I really like things that are really exciting. I don't really like things that are redundant and whatnot. If someone can come back with a style that's been done before, but in a new, fresh way, that really gets me going, and I really do enjoy that. But I think for me, it's more of a people business.
mhm.
You with whether that's meeting people in person or over Skype or Zoom now. Um, you know, Once I get past the point of figuring out, do I like this and do I want to pursue this as an investment or working with, um, it really is about getting to know those people on the other end and seeing what their work ethic is and how their personalities are, and just sort of catching a vibe with them and understanding who they are and why they do the things that they do and all of that sort of stuff. And that really, I feel like has helped me a lot with growing relationships and communicating with people. It's worked out. I feel like a lot of the people that I've worked with over the years, as far as signing their band or whatnot, they're amazing quality people that have stood the test of time so far, at least over these last 8 years. So
Mhm.
I do like that process. But
Yeah.
I mean, songs can come in through anywhere. Movements. A good friend of mine, Josh, he texted me their video just through on my phone. Ocean's 8 Alaska, I found them in the inbox, the demo inbox at Fearless, stuff like that. So
Mhm.
it can come from anywhere.
Sure. Yeah. Fairly circumstantial. I think the one thing that I really picked up from you and some other A&R that I've come to know is that it is so much more, the role is so much more personal than I originally thought, and I think probably a lot of musicians probably think it is, in that, you really have to be on the team, like to a quite a strong extent, rather than it just being like a business transaction, because you
Yeah,
have
I
to be
mean,
so invested in it,
yeah,
I guess.
yeah. I mean, listen, at the levels that we work, well, first off, we work in honest music.
Mm.
So, like, for me, that honesty has to ring true across the board. There's other genres that, have more of an artistic approach or a more simpler approach, but the music that I've always gravitated towards has been honest music. So it's always these people with angst or really high emotions and whatnot. So I really the only way that like that really can connect with other humans, um, is just, on that integrity factor of who they really are and what they're trying to deliver. So for me, it's like I said, it's always about understanding what that is with those people, and then, taking all the other bits of reality into account and hopefully moving forward. But
Yeah.
sometimes it's not always the case, but it's good to know. Yeah, it can't just always be a transaction. You need to, and especially too with like the budgets and everything that we always try to exist in. It's like
Yep.
no easy feat. You're really stretching the limits of what we can all offer as humans to hopefully create something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
Because music is such a magical thing, and it really deserves the respect that it should always get.
Yeah.
So I always try to put that at the forefront of what we do. And I mean, yeah, I think there's been projects that I've been so lucky to be involved in that have really resonated with people over the years. So it's really cool to see. I really do enjoy that aspect of it.
Awesome. So kind of following on in staying in the A&R realm, can you tell us about a band that you've kind of really thoroughly enjoyed working with? Maybe one that stuck out when you got to know them. Was it a typical story, or was it something you maybe had a closer relationship with them in the first instance? What made that relationship special?
Yeah, there's a lot. Holy cow. Well, just like a person in the industry having a path, a unique path, every band just has a unique path as well.
Yeah.
There's no formula, there's no rhyme or reason. You're trying to do business, but there's also life being mixed in with that as well. So there's so many scenarios. I will say there's two. So there's two bands that have the effectiveness of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I think more so off of like what I love music, or personally love in music, but also just like the growth and the pride that these bands have had. So for me, and they're very similar because we did a split with them, but it would be Loathe and Holding Absence.
Right.
Those guys have always been so great. And, I have great relationships with them, with more so certain people in those bands, but regardless, I'm very cool with all of them as well. I just am so super proud of the fact that they've really just grown, specifically in their area in the UK, and around the world. So it's cool to see those two bands really take hold of their artistic direction and see how that has grown so much. It's wild to me, and I'm truly just a fan of theirs. But to have that closeness with them is always been great. But yeah, I really love those bands.
No, yeah, great, both great examples. I've certainly kept I've kept up with them. They were,
Yeah. So with those bands, like I said, I have great relationships with them, and we talk often, and we're just always supportive of one another, even though currently we don't work directly with each other. I just talked to Eric yesterday for like an hour and a half. So
Right. Wicked.
I'm loath. Yeah.
So I think one of the big questions from a musician's perspective, and it's certainly a conversation that's been had many a time in many bands that I've been in, and I'm sure it's the same story for many others, is that this notion to make it in the music industry, you need to know a guy. There's always that phrase, those 3 words, know a guy. Do you know a guy? And it's, yeah, always comes up. And as an A&R person, I think it's probably safe to assume that you are the guy. Do you agree with that or disagree with that? Like, what are your thoughts on that when someone makes that presumption?
Well, it is in fact a people business, you know, and so it is all about relationship. But, you know, I've always told this to like a bunch of different artists, is like, you're allowed to do music on your own time. You know, there's never going to be a moment where you make it. I mean, I guess so, for sure. I think if you can pay your rent or your mortgage or whatever with it, then that would be the definition of making it. But I guess there's just certain moments of quote unquote making it. You know, I don't think you necessarily need to know a guy, but I think that in what that artist should be doing is delivering such an awesome song or performance, and really just having that integrity with it and freedom. People will pay attention, you know. People will find it, you know. But also, if you have the will to, and you specifically know what you want, there's no reason why you can't go on a website, track down some emails, and send it straight to people who you think would be, you know. That was the one thing, like when I first started at Fearless, we would have physical demos coming in, and we would just get tons and tons of them. And these are all people who probably purchased a mailing list, or maybe went through a different service or whatnot. But, you know, some of them just really didn't match up to, I guess, the tone of the label at the time, which now is very much different. Genres are just bending all over the place. So there's a lot more, I guess, openness with that. But yeah, I feel like visualize and identify what you want and maybe go after it. You know, usually it's people's email or people's first name followed by, you know, at whatever .com, you know. So yeah, I mean, try that way. But I mean, there's so many great platforms that independent artists can work with to, you know, gain value before they want to partner up with somebody that, you know, will share in the percentages of what they're making, you know, after that investment. So there's, you know, specifically there's a lot of services out there that help with playlisting and curation and you know, different A&R programs as well. I think there's a couple different music hosting websites that have programs like that as well. But yeah, I mean, you know, and there's a lot of great YouTube independent channels that offer hosting, you know, video hosting or premiering that, you know, do really great as well. And, you know, I check out those out frequently, but I mean, it comes from everywhere, you know. As far as for A&R, if like you're like looking or whatever, it can come from someone, you know, like I said, Ocean's Air came from a demo inbox or you know, a message in a demo inbox, or a friend or whoever. So really is can happen at any moment.
I think that's quite it's quite relieving to know, really, that it just comes down to just kind of busting your ass and putting in the work to get your music out there, rather than wishing on a prayer, you know, and just hoping for, coming back to the notion of knowing a guy. It's like, well, you know, you can put yourself in that position, and it's not just you know, you're not just farting in the wind kind of thing.
Yeah. I think it's really important though for like younger artists to to have their vision identified, at least for the most part, for that moment in time. You know, if they're able to record themselves or have songs, it's like, put it together. There's no time like the present. You know, you're always going to write your best song tomorrow, but like, create a moment for whatever artistic forces you're trying to put out. You know, have that put together. You know, sometimes people will just have a couple songs or a song and then get disappointed because it's not reacting. But it's like, you need to have a bigger vision than just that. You know, we live in a world of quick, instant validation. And so I would assume the younger generations or artists are going to have a hard time understanding that necessary time and patience, I think, to really make something long lasting. Because for me, the goal with any band or anything is like longevity. You know, is creating something that build the foundation to have fans and have the opportunity to put out music for a very long time. So yeah, like I said, in working in honest music, those are things I like to try to identify of people who are already going to do it regardless if I help or get involved in any way. You know, it's going to happen for them.
Yeah. So management as well. I know that you do work with in management, and I remember an artist that you and Matt had around the time we first met.
Reese, yeah.
And I remember that was the first time that like, honestly, that was the first time someone had shown me something and I was like, I know why you want to be involved in this. You know, it was really kind of struck me. So yeah, tell me about kind of your passion for management, and actually kind of, you know, and then perhaps how that compares to A&R.
Yeah, I think it's just like again, it's the same thing as like identifying good people out there and then helping them. You know, at times it's like I wish someone had given me more pointers or advice over the years, and I never really had that, which is fine. But you know, with Reese, it was interesting. I mean, in management in general, like I said, it's just wanting to help people. Reese, the same as you, it's like, wow, I'm floored. And, you know, we were able to have the opportunity to work with him. And, you know, like I said, I've been, at that point, I'd worked in label, I've done tour management, so I've been around managers and whatnot, and understanding what that role and relationship is. And, you know, yeah, it was a great time. I mean, at the time he was 18, he was from Virginia, very awesome R&B artist, amazing vocal performance. And I mean, that at the root of that, it's just helping somebody out. You know, like, to be honest with myself, I've done management, but I've never done the full ride. You know, I've always sort of tapped out or got another opportunity. And, you know, I've never made money from management, only because it's like, at those moments, it's like, there is money that is made, but we need it for other things.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's never been my goal with that. And, yeah, so that was a great experience with Reese. We were able to get him to move out here to Los Angeles. And I know at that point he was super young, so it just gave him a lot of great world experience to work with other people and whatnot. And, you know, even though I'm not working with them anymore, I feel like that really helped him develop into what he's doing now, which is great. So yeah, I mean, and working with Matt, honestly, it was so amazing because him and I, at the time, we shared an office. So we were together a lot. And he's the best dude ever. So that was really fun. But yeah, like I said, with management, it's just really helping people as much as I can. It's the same thing that I do now, like on product manager side or A&R side. It's just really helping people accentuate their visions of what they want to do and how we can get that done. And really trying to think like a fan, so that way we can keep it exciting. on the other side of the output side of whatever we're posting, or new music or videos or marketing ideas or anything like that. So yeah, that's, for me, that's at the core of why I do like to do management here and there.
Absolutely. No, that's great. It's wonderful that you can kind of, run them both side by side.
Yeah, sometimes. Right now I'm not working with anybody specifically, but it was a case of, with the pandemic and touring, pretty much coming to a halt, and then having some new opportunities. It was, I wanted to focus on what I was doing currently. So,
sure.
All good.
90% of the bands that we work with have just finished recording music. This is the scenario where bands that I've worked with kind of end up coming to me. They've just finished recording music and they don't know where to go from there, or they don't have the experience in promoting themselves. There's often a band member that has done it before, I usually find, in previous bands or whatever, and kind of bring something to the table. But generally, as a whole, they've kind of got a great record. They just don't know what to do with it. So I think where I would chime in was, where to kind of take them to, in which steps to take them next. So I'm super interested in knowing your opinion on kind of next steps for a band that would fit into this kind of scenario. So they've just finished a record, mixed, mastered, spit shined, ready to go, and not necessarily if you were taking them on, but just general advice. What would be the first step to go from a finished record, in your opinion?
I mean, it really just depends. It's like understanding what their expectations are at that moment in time. Because regardless of any artist, if they're new or whatever they're doing, you need to build a foundation, and you need to build a fan base. So it depends on like what you need, it's like signing to somewhere, it's like, if you have a scenario where you can write and record and mix and master your own records and have that all done, then I say, being an independent artist and really learn those successes and failures, and really build a foundation for yourself to build that value to where when you come into a partnership with somebody, you have more leverage to put into that situation. Like I said, there are certain playlisting services out there that can help you get into certain spotlights. There are video channels to premiere your videos through. There are, wherever you are, there are national and regional type of press, type of people you can work with. Those would be obviously for a fee or whatnot, but it's like, bands should be investing into themselves. They shouldn't expect everyone to pay for everything for them. So if you have band members that are working jobs and whatnot, come up with a plan to invest into the band to have those opportunities, where, we need $300 this month for a PR, a promo run with the PR company, or whatever the case may be, work that out. Don't let a number or a reality like that, stop you. So it just really depends. But also too, if you have something ready to go, a complete package, and you send that off to somebody, you could blow somebody's mind, and cool, you start your adventure from there. So like I said, talking about paths, there's so many different paths around to get into any way, shape, or form into the music industry.
Yeah. So, I mean,
if you're a songwriter, you're in the music industry, right?
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I think people sometimes are too self-critical about, their involvement in the industry, and, they measure success perhaps in the wrong way, So you're completely right. If you write songs, you know, you're in the industry.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't have my music industry membership card laying around.
Right, exactly. Sometimes I think that that's like what people need in their wallet, or what they think they need in their wallet is their like membership. Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, absolutely. So in terms of, so you've obviously talked about kind of learning the successes and failures, and actually, you know, putting in the time, which is what you would kind of do in any job, really. You put in the time, you get the experience, you climb a ladder, so to speak. At what stage, in terms of their product being ready to go, at what stage do you think an artist should approach someone like yourself?
It really just depends on, like I said, expectations. You know, where that artist is at. You know, I think if they identify and know exactly like we're this kind of band, we could envision ourselves doing well with this label or that label. You know, don't be afraid to reach out to those people. But like I said, it really depends on the expectations of the band, of what they're after. You know, if it's just wanting to put music out and there's a level of speed or an opportunity, a show coming up or whatnot, you know, by all means, put your stuff out. I mean, you got to have fans first. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, sometimes there's extraordinary music that comes across and you're just like, whoa, you know, like,
I'll take
cow,
it.
Like, oh, what is this? Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, these days, you know, what's really cool about these days is the streaming services allows for so much music discovery. So there's so many different artists out there, and really can get going on their own and build up that value. But I guess an appropriate time to hit up somebody at a label or anything is anytime that they feel, to be honest, you know, anytime that they feel like this is where I'm at, this is the exact representation of currently of, you know, what I'm trying to put out. Yeah, there's not an appropriate time, but
Sure.
Yeah.
And what's the biggest mistake that you see new bands making, or bands in their early stages of their career?
Oh yeah, for sure. Write better songs. You know, concentrate on songwriting. Concentrate on just the delivery and the comfortability of what you're putting out to yourself as well. Because for me, like I said, I can always identify someone who's just existing rather than trying to be something, you know, and that really, like I said, is about that freshness, right? Coming in from the left and just having something amazing. But yeah, I would just say pretentiousness.
Yeah.
Cut it out.
Yeah.
Cut it out. Like, you know, I guess that's like one of the hardest human complexes is, right, to like not care what other people think, but it's, you know, it sucks.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like people that can just shine and do them.
Let's say from a management perspective, I think as a manager being so close to the band and being part of the band, you know, and another member essentially, what would be bad advice from your perspective that a manager could give to a new artist?
I would say like pigeonholing yourself into like being weary of replication, right? Like always sort of pushing yourself creatively as much as possible to create something not just unique, but just something that's done right as opposed to just getting done. You know, I think an understanding and hopefully vision, I think will help people do a lot more often, as opposed to being impatient and wanting to see, you know, what other people's reaction is and whatnot. Yeah, so I would say, you know, the best advice is push yourself as creatively as possible.
I think there's a lot of standards that everybody tries to live up to in this world, and you know, musicians, creatives. There's always
Yeah.
these super
There's
hostile.
no rules. I mean, music is
Yeah,
art. There's no
yeah,
rules. So hit me with it. Let's go.
yeah. Write as much as possible. If 5 of them are
Whatever.
bad, get rid of them. Take the 5 that are
Yeah.
good. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. So I wanted to touch on because of the time we are living in, social media, and how insane the impact is. What kind of value do you place on social media?
Yeah, quite a bit. Prior to travel restriction and health concerns of groups of people, I've always been a fan of artists on social media who can give me little tidbits of like an awesome chorus or a hook. I mean, I love singing so much. So if I could see someone with raw talent sing, one thing that I would say to stand out is just quality, making sure that like for what you have, you can provide. If we're talking about streaming or like posting or anything like that, like live streaming or performances, like just make sure the quality is there, double check everything because you don't want it to like sound or look too shitty, but be creative with it. Like I said, for me, like I really love seeing people sing naturally. So I love all those sorts of things. You could do a lot with acoustics or pre-recorded type stuff, and yeah, just being creative in that sense, but having a sense of quality control as well,
Yeah,
because you can just put stuff out real quickly. But
yeah,
I like taking the time to make it quality.
yeah, definitely. There's a lot of oversaturation at the moment, I think, especially because I feel as though there's such a constant demand to produce new material. As an artist, I certainly feel the pressure of it. I'm like, damn, my song's 2 weeks old now. That's ancient. I need
Yeah,
something new out. And I think perhaps maybe that can get in the way of the integrity of the songwriting a little bit sometimes. So yeah, yeah, absolutely, quality before quantity, in my opinion, as well. I think. So yeah, what's one message that you would give to new bands that are looking to seriously pursue a career or a living out of music?
do what you got to do. I mean, that's the best advice. I think it's like just because you're in a band doesn't mean you can't have a job, and you really need to make that work these days, because a lot of times, people think it's either or. And I really feel like people can have a fulfilled life, musicians, if they understand that they can do music on their own time. And it doesn't, if one day the music can help you survive in whatever reality you're living in, then that's amazing. But yeah, do what you got to do. I think it's just, the best advice I could give to somebody when they're going through it.
Yeah, solid. So, dude, what's coming up? I want to know the new venture. Obviously, records. Like, what's in the pipeline? Obviously, I know things are a little tricky at the minute because of the virus, in terms of movement and things like that. But yeah, generally speaking.
So just working hard right now. I have a lot of projects that are on deck with Hopeless, and just going to be working through those, and hopefully I'll be able to move to Los Angeles coming up here in the next couple of months. And at that point, yeah, I'd like to. There's a couple of things that I want to get started on independently, as far as side projects or anything like that. So that should be really cool. But at the moment, just focusing. It's a new venture for me with the Hopeless team, and I'm very thankful to be a part of that family. And just a lot of great records to work on, a lot of great artists to get to know, and see what happens.
Absolutely. Well, dude, I can't wait to, when I can travel, get out and come and hang out, man. It's gonna be lots to talk about. And
always welcome. We're out here. We're here in California.
That's right. Oh, I miss it. Dude, thank you so much, Sal. It's, yeah, really appreciate you kind of talking to us, man. This is it's very valuable insights and honesty, man. That's why I was so keen to kind of get you on here and have a chat, because I know you're an honest dude, and that's what the world of the music industry needs is honesty.
For sure, man. No problem. Anytime.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you could find some value in the conversation. If you're a musical artist looking for some experienced guidance on how to further your career and would like to know what Point Break Entertainment could do to help, follow the links in the description below and feel free to reach out to us at any time.